All right, this is Kohler with OKRAW.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and today I'm coming at you from my backyard garden. I'm here gardening actually, and when I'm gardening, I have a lot of time to think about things, and I encourage you guys to think about things, reflect on things, whether that's when or after you're meditating, when you wake up in the morning, before you go to bed, or at some part during the day. Just don't do it at work when you're daydreaming, all right? But today I was thinking about dogma, you know, more specifically, dietary dogma. I want to let you guys know that all my videos are unscripted, off the cuff, just like when I meet somebody or am talking to somebody, I don't have a script that I'm reading off to people. I just talk like you're there next to me. And so this is totally off the cuff. I have no idea what I'm going to say till I say it, and that's why some of my videos are not always 100% perfect, because sometimes I say things that are maybe not as accurate as I would like them. I try to get them edited out whenever possible, but whatever, we're doing the best we can. And that's actually kind of like one of the topics of this episode today, which is I'm calling "Don't Let Dietary Dogma Cripple You," or cripple your health journey, right? And every day I see comments on YouTube and I have thoughts about them. And so this is just kind of like maybe like a rant style video on one of the comments I saw. And I don't know, I try not to let comments bother me, but I'm human too, I read things and then it affects me. And so this is maybe my response to a comment I saw or read a little bit earlier. So earlier this year I was actually in Hawaii speaking for the VSH, Vegetarian Society of Hawaii. I gave an amazing presentation. I'll put links down below to the video that I made, and also a link down below to the video of the VSH. And there's a comment on the VSH video that got a few thumbs ups actually, and it was something in regards to like blending is better than juicing or something like that. And it just kind of makes me sad on one level when people have this dogmatic style thinking, whether it's that blending is better than juicing, which granted, in some cases it might be, but in some other cases it might not be, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But basically, there's just a lot of dietary dogma, whether you're a paleo person and eating a paleo diet. Man ate paleo diet and man ate mostly meat. Well, man didn't actually mostly eat meat in the Paleolithic times. They've done studies of studying poop, and actually the Paleolithic people had lots of fiber in their diet, so they ate a lot of plant foods, and yes, they ate some meat. And so I would encourage you guys to, not necessarily, and then also the other thing to remember is just because the paleo people were eating that diet at that time, right? They were eating that diet because they were just trying to eat anything they could get their hands on that wouldn't run away, because they didn't have supermarkets, they didn't have Whole Foods, they didn't have your local Safeway, Vons, or Pavilions, or Winco, whatever you want to call it, right? They had dietary scarcity. So, I think there's a lot of dogma. Oh, just because this person did it means we should do it. And, same thing to the vegan diet. Vegans are like, eating animals are unnatural. We're not designed to eat animals. Okay, so I get that. We're not designed to eat animals. It's cruel and unusual, and we don't need to eat animals. But that being said, ancient man definitely ate some animals because, it was a good calorie source. And, we could get by in digesting it, and I'm definitely not going to say it's the healthiest thing to eat ever, because it definitely isn't. But provided you offset the small amount of meat or other animal products with large amounts of plant foods, right, you're going to be fine. But it's this, thinking that you got to be all vegan or you're a failure, or we're going to chastise you because you're not all vegan, and it's just this dogma that gets us in a lot of trouble. I mean, years gone by, like people of different colors, different ethnicities were thought of as a lesser human being because of their color, because of the color of the skin. Our DNA is like 99.999% identical to people with different skin colors, but yet these people, because of this dogma of that people with a different skin color were lesser. And I mean, it's totally bogus, right? We could say the same thing about women, right? Women are lesser people because they're not men or whatever. I mean, it's just all dogma, right? Women have exactly the same opportunities, or can be the same and perform the same in men in almost all areas. And it's just all this rubbish we've been taught. And I think it basically comes down to like history books, number one, are being, you know, written by people that have money and influence and power, and they basically write history the way they want it to be seen. The other thing is that in our society, we're in many religions of the world, actually, we're taught good, bad, right, wrong. And we're taught this convergent way of thinking where, you know, something's got to be right and it's got to be wrong. Vegan, it's right, and if you eat meat, you're bad. And like, above all else, if you guys are watching my channel, I want you guys to rise above this, you know, convergent way of thinking. I want you guys to be more divergent and think of all the different possibilities, and not in terms of right and wrong, but minimally in terms of what I like to teach: good, better, best, right? At least you have 3 different options instead of right, wrong, good, bad, right? Like, you know, one of the easiest principles that I teach is like the stoplight principle. You know, there's green foods I will always eat, right? I'll always eat sweet peppers, you know, I'll always eat fresh fruits and vegetables, I'll always eat leafy greens. What are some maybe yellow light foods that I may not eat so often? You know, maybe some hot peppers, you know, might be super hot. You know, some people have dogma about hot peppers, that they're, you know, messing you up and stuff. But I'll eat those sometimes. And then I have the red foods. And for me, the red foods are foods that I just will not, I don't consider food actually at all. I mean, I was in the supermarket earlier today and shopping for produce, whatnot. And just most of the food in there, I don't consider food, and hope you guys wouldn't consider food either. You know, if it's highly processed in a packaged, you know, added kind of chemicals, preservatives, you know, ingredients you can't read, you shouldn't consider those foods, hopefully, right? So, but the whole point of the matter is that I want you guys to think divergently instead of convergently. Think of, there's many different ways to do things, and not just one way or the way. You know, of course, I have my diet and the diet that works, that I've found works for me, but even though I know what works for me, doesn't mean I'm just gonna stay stuck in history and, you know, do what I'm doing and never change because what I'm doing works. Well, what if there's something out beyond my comfort zone that I'm not doing that could improve my diet even better? You know, and there has been things along my journey that have helped me. I mean, one of the things that was actually pretty phenomenal is when I got a medical recommendation for cannabis and started juicing cannabis, and I was able to get some of the cannabinoids in me. I definitely felt it took me to the next level, and there may be things out there for you guys, but you guys will never try those things if you're stuck in your dogma. Oh, cannabis, man, I saw that movie when I was a kid. It was called Reefer Madness, and cannabis, that stuff makes you crazy. Once again, that's dogma we're being taught, and there's all kinds of dogma out there. And so now I want to get into some more particular dogma and more about my opinions on some of the dogma out there. So I think the reason for this video today was actually because of the basically blending dogma, right? So blending is better than juicing, because juicing, you're removing all the fiber. Well, number one, you're not removing all the fiber when you're juicing. You're removing all the insoluble fiber. You're keeping the soluble fiber. But the other thing you're doing besides removing, you know, something, you're actually gaining something at the same time. You're also basically breaking up the nutrients from the cell walls so that you get to get better absorption from them, because we can only absorb things that are in a liquid state. Right? Thinking, well, John, a blender does that too. It does it at high speed. It blends it up and it basically puts everything into a liquid so you could drink and get the benefits of the nutrients and also the fiber. Well, so here's the thing. When you blend things up at a high speed, there's a little vortex inside there, and while it may break things up and explode things and turn them inside out, you're also doing damage to some of those valuable phytochemicals and phytonutrients. So that could be a bad thing. That being said, you know, hey, blending anything is still better than canned food and whatnot, right? And so once again, good, better, best. That being said, you know, there are situations where blending may not be warranted. You know, somebody with, you know, inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's, colitis, irritable bowel, whatever. So some people in that situation, they cannot handle fiber. And if you tell them, oh yeah, go on a blender diet, man, they're going to be in pain. It's not going to be good. And that's why juicing and removing all the fiber, you know, with a sieve is really good for a person with those kinds of conditions. Likewise, you know, There's a therapy called the Gerson therapy. Look it up. There's many videos, there's books on it. And the Gerson therapy is revolved around juicing high volumes of carrots and apples and greens and other things. And this diet heals people, or has helped people and healed them with many incurable diseases. And once again, you know, the Gerson diet doesn't always work for everybody. That's some dogma out there. It can work for a good percentage of people, especially if you catch some of your diseases and illnesses early enough, right? And so once again, we want to think in these absolutes. Oh, the raw food diet, man, that's my cure-all. It's going to heal everything. Well, as good as the raw food diet is, it may not, you know, help you with every different condition. And the other thing is, there's many different ways to do a raw food diet. And, you know, talking about raw food diets, there's raw food diet dogma out there too. Don't get me started on that, right? It's like, one of the dogmatic things, in my opinion, is it's all about the enzymes. We got to keep food up below 118 degrees to keep the enzymes. And yes, I will not discredit enzymes, and enzymes are super critical to help us digest our food, help us break down food, help us cleanse and detoxify our body. But in my opinion, they're not like the most important thing that are in raw foods, you know. In my opinion nowadays, which is something actually I was not taught, but now I have the pleasure of sharing with you guys, is I believe now that one of the most important factors in the food are the phytonutrients. And it's these very important nutrients that are being diminished when you're heating, when you're cooking, when you're blending things up at high speed, you know, in a standard, climatic conditions, environment. And this could be very detrimental because, you know, it's some of these powerful phytonutrients and plant compounds help our bodies heal. And you know, there's other things, you know, I mean, I see dogmatic thinking all the time. Just eat carbs, man. That's dogmatic thinking that carbs, whatever they may be from, whether that's potatoes or rice, are the thing that we need most. And hey, more power to you. If you guys want to eat potatoes, eat rice, hey, it's way better than eating processed foods, processed junk foods, even animal foods, right? But hey, you know, the reason why I got into my lifestyle is for a specific reason, right? I didn't go vegan just because I saw a movie, although I did see a movie and then went vegan. But I had an illness. I almost lost my life. And so my personal focus and journey this whole time I've been doing this diet now since 1995, so 22 years now, has been on how do I have the highest level of health, and not only the highest level of health, but how do I continue to increase and build my health to a higher level. And so that's some of my, you know, teachings that I teach you guys is focused around my beliefs and my goals. And great, some of you guys, most of you guys maybe may not have the same goals as having the highest quality, you know, health, highest quality life, you know, having the highest quality immune system, and having, more importantly, longevity to be on this beautiful planet, as long as we don't screw it up, as long as we humanly can. And so some people may not agree with me because they're athletes, and, you know, hey, you know, I meet people all the time that, like, you know, want to smoke, you know, and they know on the cigarette packet it says smoking could cause cancer, and they accept that. And yeah, I accept all you guys, you know, if you guys eat meat, I don't really care. I don't think it's the healthiest thing to eat, but hey, it'd be cool, you know, we'd hang out, you could eat meat, I'll drink my carrot juice, and it's happened. You know, I have friends I took out on a boat, you know, I took out 5-pound bag of carrots in my juicer, and they took out their hamburgers and were grilling up their hamburgers, and I was on the boat with the power inverter juicing my carrots. We hung out, right? No big deal. I think, you know, this intolerance, you know, I think dogmatism creates intolerance also, which is another big problem with society. But yeah, and then even in raw foods, there's like fruitarians. Hey, nothing wrong with fruitarians. I have a lot of fruitarians that are friends of mine. I eat a good percentage of fruit myself, but then a lot of fruitarians may believe fruit is the #1 food and we just need to eat fruit and we don't need to eat any leafy greens. You know, in my opinion, that's dogmatic too. No society in the history of man only ate fruit. I mean, #1, could they even do it unless they lived in the tropics, right? Fruits are seasonal, and sometimes there's just not enough fruit to go around. I mean, I have plenty of fruit trees, and you know, there's some days of the year for a couple, maybe a week at a time, I could eat all off my fruit trees. And unless I had 10 acres and a lot of different varieties, I could eat all year round. And yeah, fruit digests better and all this kind of stuff, but we wouldn't have just eaten fruit. And in my opinion, based on my experience, what I've seen, based on my personal experience, having some teeth issues with eating a high fruit diet, you know, while I do encourage you guys to eat fresh fruits, right? I don't personally believe that they're like the only thing you guys should be eating, right? If you guys want to do a high fruit diet, that's great. You guys could do a high fruit diet, but make sure you balance it out with enough vegetables and other nutrient dense foods. So another big dogmatic topic in the whole, plant-based, vegan, raw, diet is the whole thing about whole foods, right? There's whole food dogmatism out there, right? And in my opinion, while whole foods are definitely the best, and we're not really designed to drink high volumes of juices, we're not designed either to have cell phone radiation at our heads or chemtrails in the sky, if you guys believe that, and being bombarded with all these chemical and synthetic, things in our daily lives these days, right? And so while maybe if we lived 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we didn't have all these toxins, maybe we could get by with a whole foods diet. But that being said, once again, that's that right or wrong thinking. Whole foods is always right, and any processed food is all junk, right? And so we really need to kind of get away from that, in my opinion. What we need to do is, I focus on a whole foods, plant-based diet. Fruits and vegetables dominate my diet, absolutely, 100%, no question about it. But I don't always eat them whole. Sometimes I get rid of their fiber, right? Sometimes I juice. You're gonna send me to hell because I committed a sin, man, by juicing my vegetables. But yeah, I mean, I try to process my own food at my house and process it with my own two hands. So I take whole foods, process it myself, and then include it in my diet. There are limited amounts of other processed foods that I actually bring in that, in my opinion, are minimally processed. But you know what? Each one of us have to make our own determinations about what is right and wrong. And especially, me being in a position where I have a lot of people watching me, following me, I want to try to give the most general information that I can, that, and share my truths, because simply, as I said in my videos before, what I share in my videos are my truths. And, a lot of it is backed up with science. Other people I've spoken to, published research studies, like some of the topics that I talk about, juicing versus blending. There's scientific documented studies on, more polyphenol content in, fresh juices than high power blended smoothies. That being said, can we even trust science, right? Science has gotten so contorted these days. Science is about the study of nature, and they're trying to make science into chemicals and all these crazy things these days, and you could basically prove anything in a study, get it published if you got enough money, in my opinion. So I think the one thing that's most important about all of this is to have a sharp mind and be able to think. Unfortunately, in our society today, we're taught to follow. We're not taught to think in our society. We're taught to follow the leader. And unfortunately, in this case, in the United States anyway, the leader may not be maybe leading us down the right road, in my opinion. But that's a whole nother topic. But yes, but sometimes a leader, whoever it may be, whether it's me or somebody else, may not be leading you the right direction. I strive to lead you guys in the best direction and share with you guys the best information that I have. I will never intentionally mislead anybody. I may have been misled by other people. It's highly probable and possible. But as soon as I find something new information, and something different than what I was doing, I'll change what I'm doing, change my approach, and then I'll share with you guys on why I've changed and why I'm doing things differently. A lot of people are unfortunately stuck in their dogmatism. One of the many different dogmatic things, seaweeds and algae are filter feeders, right? They're pond scum. And yes, while that is true on one level, algae and seaweeds have also many health benefits at the same time. Same thing with garlic. Garlic can be quite toxic. I made a video one time where, I talked about an event where I basically took garlic, I taped it to my neck because I was having some kind of like fungus or bacterial breakout. I taped the garlic to my neck, and I think it did kill the fungus or bacteria, whatever it was. But the next morning I woke up with a 2nd-degree burn on my neck because the garlic's so toxic, right? And once again, garlic is one of my yellow foods. I'm not going to sit there and eat a meal out of garlic, but I like to include it sometimes because aside from being quite toxic to bacteria and viruses, right, and can potentially be you know, toxic to you, it could also be beneficial to you because it's been shown to have anti-disease, anti-cancer properties. So it's this we need to be able to discern, you know, these things and know how much of a certain product, item, or food to eat or not eat, or a certain style of diet to do or not do. You know, I will say that I believe that the best diet is based around, but maybe not entirely, a whole foods, plant-based, vegan, and minimally processed, which includes plenty of raw foods, right? Well, actually lots of raw foods, and all the raw foods and the unprocessed food should be based around the highest quality, most nutrient dense fruits and vegetables with limited amounts of other foods in there, including nuts and seeds, grains and beans, and all that kind of stuff, right? So, I mean, those are kind of my thoughts. That's what I just wanted to share with you guys today. And I guess to sum this up, I really want you guys to try to step yourself outside the dogmatism. I know I'm going to get comments down below, but John, fruit's the #1 food for human beings and all this stuff. And people are still going to argue with me that, you know, blending is better than juicing. And, you know, once again, there are situations that each one of these may be better or worse depending on a person's situation. If you're just eating for calories, you probably don't care if you blend or if you juice too much, and you're eating for, you know, you want all the fiber, right? Trust me, I get plenty of fiber in juicing 1 time a day. I still get plenty of fiber, more than the average person. And even in juices, I'm still getting half the fiber. But yeah, I just want you guys to hopefully remove yourself out of some of the dogmatism and, you know, think of the good, better, best, right? You know, hey, I know some of the doctors I listen to say, hey, you gotta eat whole foods, right? But at the same time, they're eating some more highly processed foods. You know, if they're like, you know, frying foods and eating whole foods that have been fried, right? Or cooked at hot temperatures to create potential cancer-causing toxins, I would much rather take those whole foods and juice them, run it through my juicer, and get further benefits, right? And things are just not always cut and dry. We always want to prove this right, prove this wrong, and it's like a touch of gray, you know, or gradients, right? 50 shades of gray. So yeah, above all else, I want you guys to try to like step yourself out of the dogmatism and do the best you can. And, you know, as I learn more information, you know, I will surely be having videos on this YouTube channel. One of the interesting things that's coming up lately is now there's new vacuum blenders on the market. I've had my first video already on the first one that's been introduced by Tribest. I'll put a link down below to that video. But now with the vacuum blending, you're basically removing a good percentage of the excess air and oxygen in the blender craft before you blend. So now you could actually, you know, my main argument about losing some of the phytonutrients that can be nullified, but still I'm sure there's other things going on in there, and I really want to see some nutritional studies, you know, comparing like vacuum blending to juicing. You know, once again, you know, is one better than the other? Well, they're each good in their own right, and of course vacuum blending and juicing fruits and vegetables above pretty much, aside from eating them whole, unless you have digestive issues, are probably some of the best things you could consume on the planet. And so it's probably not really that important to nitpick about these things. You know, I do both, right? To be honest with you, I blend, vacuum blend now every day pretty much, and I juice, slow juice every day as well. And hopefully after watching this episode, you'll know to hopefully expand what you're doing in your life. You know, get different kinds of foods, different kinds of plant foods in your diet, whether you got to juice them, whether you got to blend them, whether you got to steam some veggies because otherwise you wouldn't eat them. Hey, that's better than not eating them all. And if you're still eating meat, you know, raise your own meat and kill it is what I'd like to say to everybody out there, because you never know the quality, what's been done to it, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I want you guys to have, you know, be your own boss, know what's going on. And don't get me wrong, because I said this in one of my other videos where I, you know, want people to kill their own animals. You know, I personally believe that if people had to raise their own animals and slaughter them and kill them to be able to eat them, I think there'd be a lot more plant-based eaters out there. I do not believe killing anything is right and should be minimized at all costs. But you know what? I'm not perfect either. You know, I got snails in my garden, and either they're eating or I'm eating. And so, you know, once again, vegan is not an absolute, and it shouldn't be dogmatic. And hopefully after this, watching this episode, hopefully, you know, you guys will maybe just be a little bit more open to other people and tolerant and accepting. I think that's probably what we need most on this planet in this year and at this time. So if you enjoyed this format, my rant format, hey, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I'll do more of these in the future. Also be sure to click that subscribe button right down below to be notified of my new and upcoming episodes I generally have coming out about every 5 to 7 days. Also be sure to check out my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 450 videos on this channel now dedicated to teach you guys the best ways to eat a fruit and vegetable dominated plant-based diet. So with that, my name is John Kohler. I'm getting back to gardening with OKRAW.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.